Back then, what football was, it was the way of life. You had major associations fighting with the federation. In other words, nobody had a vision what it would be. Then comes the biggest kicker when they started the National Football League or the I League and took the institutional teams out of the equation. So you take all the good teams out of it, then suddenly the league in Goa collapsed, the league in Kolkata collapsed, the league in Maharashtra collapsed, the league in Kerala collapsed. Now you destroy all that without a vision. Every village had a village tournament. That's how we became football players. Indian footballer is a good athlete. You nurture him properly, he will reach to new heights.
So tell me a few points that because of which Indian football dropped down the quality which it had back in the days.
I couldn't put my finger on the exact thing, but I can give you some scenarios on a larger scale. What was then? We had institutional teams that played tournaments, and even in Hubli and Kolhapur, I would say, you would have packed stadiums. In Cochin, for example, or in Bangalore, you would have packed stadium, Cooperage Stadium. Back then, what football was, it was the way of life. That means, and we didn't, when you're talking about grassroots and all these things, there were leagues happening. There was a youth league happening and all, but it was not as much as what is happening today. But people loved that game. And there was no foreign influx of broadcasting. TV had not come. You got to understand the television and the viewership of what we have for English Premier League and all. That element was not there. There was only Indian football. And for some reason or the other, we didn't do enough. And those reasons could be many. Number one was we did not protect that property what we had. We did not put an infrastructure behind it to structure the system, the players and the teams and the clubs and the revenue sharing, all that element, the ecosystem, I call it, of football, was not structured. And there were segments. There was Kolkata was the FA, and then you had AIFF, then you had, for example, GFA. You had major associations fighting with the federation. In other words, nobody had a vision what it would be. Everyone thought, oh, we are going to continue in this. Then comes the biggest kicker of all, the failure, according to me. This is just my assessment of the failure. The assessment of the failure is when they started the National Football League or the I League and took the institutional teams out of the equation and said, okay, we are going to form this national league and we are going to do away with all this, give the sort of the B grade to all the tournaments, the Rovers Cup or the Stafford Cup or all of this, including Federation. Federation was conducted for a month long. How is that even possible? That is like what we call is the TASA or the Cup, right? It's a Cup championship. It should have gone simultaneously along with the leagues of the infrastructure of the ecosystem. The structure of the ecosystem was fragmented and still is. And it's the key failure. So you take all the good teams out of it, then suddenly the state level competition collapses. Goan football collapsed, the league in Goa collapsed, the league in Kolkata collapsed, the league in Maharashtra collapsed, the league in Kerala collapsed, the league in Punjab collapsed. These were the main key states which was all contributing. So because in Goa you would have 3 or 4 teams, Vasco, Dampo, Salgonkar, Seza. In Kolkata you would have Mohun Bagan, East Bengal, Mohammedan Sporting. Then in Kerala you would have Kerala Police, ITI. Bangalore you would have hockey, the HAL, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, ITI. Then Orke, Air India, South Central Railways. You had these teams. Now you destroy all that without a vision. And that's the outcome of what you're saying today.
Anything else that you would like to add on what the current situation about what is happening in the present? What is going on wrong that is happening in the present?
I'm not there to know, but I only get a second-hand news. Right? I read the news. People ask me, "Hey, wait a minute. You're living in Portugal. You are, I'm a fellow Indian. I was born and raised in India. I live over here because of economics reason. I moved over here, for well-being of my family. But for me, Indian football has always been the heart of me. That's me. I mean, I can clearly tell you I can tell you stories about it. But the key, what I see, what is wrong and what is happening today, even this day, is that even at the AIFF level, when you came with a 2047, a plan for 35 years, and okay, I have a vision of doing this, but you do not have an execution or an implementation system in place. You have not brought all the players into your house in having a discussion. That means you need all the support from all the association, local association, and you got to make it a collective movement in India. It cannot be an isolated AIFF movement. I want to do football. I'm going to come up with this plan. And you don't have anything. You do not bring women's football on board. You're not bringing all the associations on board. You're not bringing all the large stakeholders on board. You are going to do a politically motivated structure. Sorry, not going to work. It's going to only fail. And you're going to take 10 steps ahead and then probably 20 steps back. And you're not going anywhere. And that's what I have seen for the last 58 years. So to me, I feel that inclusion policy is absolutely a failure on Indian football's part. It's not there. The level of Indian football is there. The reason why it is not good enough, and a good example would be a cricket, for example, because we are exporting cricketers to go to play county football in England, right? We are exporting cricketers to go and play in other foreign countries. How many football players are we exporting to go play in foreign countries? None, zero, nada at this moment. And that's absolutely the issue. That means you have a lot of quality cricketers. Why? Because cricket academy and the cricket ecosystem is so that they are developing, because there are tremendous amount of cricketers playing cricket in India. Now, let's not dwell on cricket. Now, take the same example to football. Once upon a time, football was thriving because they were like in Goa. Let's give you a good example. There used to be every village had a village tournament. That's how we became football players. So every village had a tournament, sort of was called inter-village. And then there was an inter-village, and then there was a club football happening outside the Goa Football Association, League 1 and League 2. And there was plenty of football. So you were playing pretty much, I would say, 60, 70 games a year. That means you were literally playing 2 games per week in sometimes, or 1.5 game per week. Take that out, and that is the fall. In terms of talking about structure, whether it's an English structure or a German structure or a Spanish structure, that's what I said about in my initial point, is that the ecosystem is fragmented, and that failure of that ecosystem is what is not producing quality players in that pipeline, what you mentioned about that sort of a pyramid. And I feel that every foreigner that is coming and talking about a foreign concept or foreign model and things like that is not taking into consideration what is the Indian ecosystem. Do we have the kind of infrastructure? Do we have those grounds built? Goa would be a fantastic model. All they need to do is change all those grass pitches to artificial ground. And that way you can play for 12 months, because 6 months it rains. So you cannot play on those grounds. So there are many components that leads to it. So in answering in short, recapping the last statement, Indian footballer is a good athlete. You nurture him properly, he will reach to new heights. The competition needs to be restructured in such a way that it needs to be broken down into zones, whether it is northeastern zone, western zone, whatnot, north zone. You need to break it down. India is too vast. It has too many people, too many complications in that regard. You need to simplify that equation. And then you have regionals and you have nationals. And if you do the competition in that manner, like United States does, the East zone and the West zone and the Central zone and so forth, you will have success. Now, balance that with a fantastic methodology that is governed by, in this case, IPTJ, it is like a governing body which puts out all the coaching material. It is similar to SAG, in other words, Sports Authority of Goa, or Sports Authority SI, Sports Authority of India, that puts out all the coaching material, that has a philosophy that says this is how, or like all United States Soccer Federation does it. Sahil, if you do all these things, there is no way India can fail in this. You will produce not one and two, you'll produce thousands and thousands of top quality players. In the absence of that, absolutely you will fail. And that's what is happening. There is an absence in that because there is no system, there are no processes, and it's absolutely fragmented.